Welcome to the Art of the Jam, the show where all the music you hear is created spontaneously right here in front of you, live. I'm Steve on bass, this is Josh on keys, and Brad on drums. Jason, Kelly Fullmer, welcome to the Art of the Jam.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm so glad to have you here. Jason, I met him in the context of orchestra. It was a Pops orchestra, and he played guitar in the Pops orchestra, but he's very versatile. He played mandolin in the Utah Opera, and I've been playing with him in his band, Ellipsis, and, you know, it's funny because all four of us just happen to be in Ellipsis, too. So, Jason, welcome again to the Art of the Jam. I'm going to ask you about some of your lines that you play when you're soloing. In the last video that we did, if you haven't seen it, check it out, because he played a continuous stream of eighth notes, and he would bring it into the foreground with more soloistic type lines and then pull it back into the background, and I was really impressed with that.
It was all on purpose, too.
I'm sure it was, right?
No, I was just going by feel.
So, well, what are you thinking when you're doing those kind of long, extended lines like that?
Outside of it happening, I'm not sure. It's whatever feels right in the moment, I think. And it's the way that I approach a jam session, I suppose. It's a very conversational thing. Mm-hmm. And so that question is like asking me, what were you thinking during this part of the conversation, where, you know, sometimes you spoke up and then other times you didn't. You know, if you're thinking about what you're going to say next, you're not necessarily listening to what's going around you, then you might come out of something saying something that doesn't really fit what's already going on.
I'm going to go back to this continuous line thing, because you have, it almost seems like a store of so many different lines that you're pulling from. How do you go about adding new licks to your repertoire, or new words, musical words? How do you increase your language ability on your instrument?
How do I, or how
you
does one,
you individually, yeah.
The way that I do it is probably more informed by what I listen to, mm-hmm. finding a new artist and then going home and learning the lick. You know, finding just a new artist that really captures something, you know, so there's something about mm-hmm. it that I like, and trying to understand their language, you know, regardless of instrument. If it's a keyboard mm-hmm. lick that I have to put onto frets, or if it's a saxophone thing that I have to figure out how in the world am I going to make that jump.
And it might not have naturally come to you
mm-hmm.
playing guitar, but...
Yeah, so, I mean, I've studied the scales and the modes and stuff, but mm-hmm. I really don't consciously apply them to a lot of my playing. You know, if you ask me about them now, I could be like, oh, what's this one? It's that one, right? And I would be unsure of myself. But in playing, if it sounds right, I can do it. And I guess that's just because I've heard it enough that I can replicate it. And it's, I don't know, something, if you're familiar enough with it, you can be able to emulate it. Something like speaking with a French accent, you know? Mm-hmm. If you've heard enough French, you can start to pick up on the little tricks that they do. We were jamming just a little bit before, and I'm like, there's this little line that Victor Wooten does on a lot of his bass solos where, you know, if that's the tonic of the chord, he goes down and then goes back up. And it's just something that always caught me, you know, made me think about what was going on melodically, mm-hmm. and I've stolen it a million times in a million solos because I love how it sounds, you know? Mm-hmm. So just taking all of those influences and putting them into something that goes on, you know? These are a conversation with people that you know and are comfortable with, can go from point A to point B to point C to point D, and are really long jam sessions. You know, we can get to things that, you know, if there are points when you stay up until 3 a.m. and the conversation comes full circle, and that's when you know you're done.
Sure.
It's great when that happens musically too. Mm-hmm. You know, when you've said what you had to say, there's callbacks to what we were saying before, and then all of a sudden we land on, I don't know, Renaissance painters again, and that's just like, well, okay, let's go home now. You know, that's just like that's where it feels like that part of the conversation is over, and we're not over, but you know, it has come full circle.
Well, cool. Well, we may or may not hear some of those continuous lines that we were talking about.
Sure.
But let's play.
Let's do it.